Hey and welcome to Simply Business, from Essex to East London. Welcome back, and on this episode we have Darren Hyde from VIP Security Limited. We're going to jump straight in with a quick fire round. Are you ready, Darren?
Oh, as ready as I'm ever going to be, yeah.
Okay, here we go then. Are Jaffa cakes a biscuit or a cake?
Oh, biscuit.
Do you prefer tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Instagram or Snapchat?
Instagram.
Pepsi or Coke?
Pepsi.
Mac or PC?
PC.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Fly.
What is your least favourite chore?
Oh, DIY. Hate it.
One thing you would definitely take to a desert island?
Oh, Swiss Army knife.
And what are one of these these type questions would you have me ask other people on the podcast?
Maybe the desert island one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one to you, yeah?
Yeah.
Alright. Okay, so the people listening to this won't know who you are, won't know what you do, don't know how you got to where you're going. So can you tell me a bit about you, yourself, what you like, about your hobbies, your past, and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, well, my name's Darren Hyde. I'm the sole director of VIP Security Essex Limited. I've been in business almost 29 years, and I don't look it, that's what you meant to say.
You don't. It's a podcast, so they can't see you.
Oh, that's a shame. So I have got a face for radio. I started out as a 19-year-old with an idea to do something for myself. I'd worked with my brother in a completely different business, in the meat business, for a few years prior to that, and I'd always had an interest in the security business, or the industry, which was by far different then than it is now. I was very much into training, into weights, so at the time I was, I suppose, quite a big strong lad, and it was something, I suppose, more of a macho thing then to go into the security industry, because I'm talking about doors, pubs and clubs.
Okay.
I spent a long time knocking on doors, but then at the time you don't realise how young you are. So I was knocking on doors, as in nightclubs and pubs, saying, give us a job, give us a job. And at first there wasn't much success, and then I started getting a bit of success. And I started doing a little bit for clubs and stuff at the weekend. And wow, what a world it was. So... How different it is to today.
You've got some stories, right?
I've got loads of stories, yeah, but some I might be able to tell you, some I might not. But I could change names, I suppose. So then on the 19th of September, 1989, I did my first job for myself under the guise of VIP. Okay. I did a door for a local Catholic club. It was a football disco. I did that on my own, and I think it was my father was running the football team at the time, and he said, "Do you want to do this then? As you're now a bouncer, that's what we used to be called. Yeah. Not as a politically correct door supervisor as today's people know as." So I did that, and I liked it, and I carried on doing it. I kept doing private parties. I kept doing anything that I could. I was working all the time, which then progressed into the early years. I was married at a young age. I then had a couple of kids. It all started rolling on, but it was all a part-time thing. It wasn't. It was never really deemed as a full-time thing, because it was all weekends and occasional evenings. So I carried on. I worked with my brother, and we sailed on for it was probably about 10 years, I suppose, of doing it like that. And obviously got to know a few characters and stuff through doing the doors, ended up working for different people whilst I was running my own thing. And then I thought to myself, so exactly 10 years later, so it was in 1998, that I said to my brother, look, we're not going to work, I want to work on my own, I want to be my own boss, I want to do this, I want to do that. So I left him, went on holiday with my then very young family, and came back and sort of threw myself into it. Basically, not really earning a lot. It was one of those situations. I thought, what have I done?
Okay.
But very strong-willed, very determined. I carried on. I kept knocking on people's doors, like literally sending out leaflets I'd done, sending out cards, phoning up places, getting lists of pubs, because pubs and clubs was all I sort of thought was out there. And it started to earn a bit of a living, which sort of brought me up to about the year 2000.
So it took you a couple of years before you and built some momentum.
But then the strange thing happened then was that I thought had a few domestic problems occur, and as they do, I often say in the security industry anyway, you're either going to end up dead, in prison, or divorced. Well, I ended up with one of them, and I come close to another. So I thought, do you know what? I might jack this in. So I sold off some of the places that I had. I sort of shifted those over, and miraculously so, I joined the police. I didn't think I'd ever get in. I mean, joining the Met Police, and which that went through. And then whilst I was in training, I thought, I've got to get rid of these things. I was left with just a couple of places that were sort of I was just ticking over, taking pocket money out of. And then what happened was, when I was actually in the police the first few years, people were coming back to me. Staff were saying, what did you do? Can't believe you're a copper. And it's like, no, what can I?
Cool.
So I was still in contact with a lot of people from it, and people were still ringing me and contacting me, asking me to carry on security. So it was already declared as a very, very micro business as the police, because you have to be, and subsequently it became incredibly difficult to have, but you have to declare it and it has to be approved and everything else, and it was approved as I went through. And then during that course, I served as a police officer for 11 years. So during that time, based in East London, the business started to pick up and gain momentum, and then was becoming more than just, it was actually, it was bigger than the job that I was in a sense of potential for earnings and things like that. So every year I had to renew my business interest, and that was approved. But as it went through to the latter years, it became more and more difficult. They said they don't really want you doing it. And,
I was going to say, is there a bit of a sticky point with being, is it just security or having another job?
Well, it's security, because it's a license
type of job.
Because back in 2001, Security Act came out whereby you had to have a license to operate, and you also had to have a license to be in charge of anybody on a licensed premises. So 2001 and the early years of that was a real change for the industry. That is where, let's say, some of the characters, maybe some not so good, which is what they was trying to target, because of the drug trade and everything that was going on associated with clubbing. But my personal opinion is it was a government body called the Security Industry Authority, SIA is what we know it as. So you had to be a licensed person. So I had to hold a license to run these people and to do the odd thing where I could, because it was disclosed at the time that I could still do it. But as commissions changed and as different people changed, the rules changed and they became stricter and stricter, which meant they didn't want you necessarily having a second job, but more so they didn't want you associated with licensed premises, because being a police officer, the whole thing in their idea, could come into conflict. But at the time, I wasn't operating in London. It was just literally in Essex or home county. I moved, because actually I started up initially in Brentwood. Under the stairs, I had a little chair, had a little phone fax, good old faxes, and no one even knows about that. I was under this lamp that used to burn holes in things. I used to be sat under there for hours trying to talk people into doing jobs and saying crazy things like, I speak to a council department, I'll speak to... it's just me. It's literally just me. And
playing all the roles.
I played all the roles.
Exactly.
I had loads of hats.
Yeah.
I should have opened my own hat shop. But it was a case of so I was doing all that. That was under the stairs. That was, and even then, whilst in the police, it stayed that way. I was in Brentwood, and then I felt to give it a bit of kudos while I was still doing serving the Crown, as it were. I moved to a small office in Brentwood, in Whalley in Brentwood, and after a short while of time, I got somebody in who I knew that we were doing training. We used to then start doing the training for the SIA, so we had one part of that, because it used to be known as VIP Security Training Services, and then that changed years later. And that office then grew into the office opposite, which was twice the size.
Nice.
Which I think at the time we thought, I think it was, they wanted something like 750, 800 pound a month, which I thought was, to me at the time, was like a mortgage. I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? Bearing in mind now we pay 15 grand a year for where we are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You just think, what mountains are hard to climb at the time.
Yeah.
So anyway, I took that on. We moved across to there, and I was very keen on trying to get things managed. So, which we tried to do, or I tried to do, I should say. But what was happening was towards sort of 2009, it was becoming, I was working, because I was full-time in the police, I was working about 100 hours a week. It was after earlies I'd go into the office, before lates I'd be in the office, days off I'd be in the office, and it was, I'm trying to do things, I'd be on the phone. People were noticing it, and it was just becoming too much. So it came to, I think I was told in 2011, look, you're going to renew it this year, your business interest. Because basically what it would come down to was that if you came to a choice, you either jacked in your business interest, or you could face disciplinary and you'd be sacked, which no one wants that. So that was in 2011. 2012 came round, and they were saying, and I'm still working all these hours. Great. In 2011, at the end of 2011, I I made my life even easier by putting the icing on the cake. I had twin boys, which anyone listening.
That's right. Yeah. So no hours in the day left.
There's no hours in the day, and they didn't sleep, and it was just, excuse my language, bloody horrendous.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend twins to anyone, as much as they're adorable and they're lovely. So anyone I see with multiples, more than two, I just think, oh my God. He's just
more stressful than the security job.
Oh yeah. I used to go to work, and even a wife now, so I used to go to work for a rest. Sometimes I'd sit on the A130, either asleep, not telling anyone where I was for 20 minutes, set an alarm, or I'd cry, because it was just it was just horrible. And then you get people say to you, oh, I've got one. I don't know how you cope. Well, we don't. And I had them very close together. Well, anyone listening, close together is nothing to do with having two at the same time. Okay. It's horrendous. Anyway, if I haven't laboured the point, but they're gorgeous boys, and they're 6.5 now. So they're still a bit. You
are sleeping now, though, right?
I do sleep occasionally. Okay, I do.
Stop the 20-minute naps and the crying. It's died down a little bit.
It's died down. Yeah, most of us only cried about staff now. That's another subject to come on to. But so that all sort of came about end of 2011, 2012. They wanted me to renew the business interest. It was then told to me that it was a problem. So this was the year of the Olympics in London. Yeah. So the whole of the Met Police were mobilised, and it was a mad time for the Met and for everybody. So everyone was busy. So I was trying to manage the business, trying to manage babies, trying to manage a full-time job in the police, and it just wasn't, something had to give. So I looked at it. I thought, well, anyway, my business interest went all the way to the Home Secretary. Which I never did find out the result. That's another story, is the fact that I was told, it doesn't matter now, you resigned, so we're not going to tell you of what the answer was. That's the phone call I had, is that I phoned up to find out, and they said, so I just said, do you know what, in end of August, so it would have been equivalent of 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
Jesus. Christ,
Olympics was only 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years ago in London. So I resigned, and wife was fully supportive, and it was away from. I couldn't let on to most. The business was doing okay as it was, but it was still, you know, we're still looking in the realms of micro business, really, sort of 300,000 a year, and I took the plunge because I thought, well, whatever happens, I'm one of those people that's determined to keep, even if I have to work every night myself. I did it when my other kids were young and everything else, when it was in its infancy. Because you've got to do it. You've got to be in it. You've got to do it.
Yeah.
You can't tell.
Jump,
you can't tell people to do something you wouldn't do yourself. Well, that's my theory. I know there's a lot of business leaders and people out there now that have actually never done it. But they've just had great staff and they've been great at delegating. I can delegate.
They got lucky with that, though.
They got lucky. Like Richard Branson. Apparently he's he's done extremely well, but a lot of that is attributed to the people he's had around him. Great guy.
I've read into it. He built a good team, didn't he? That's
and he still went off and played the role and was a crackpot. Really, he's just an absolute fruitcake.
He's
really.
still playing.
Still does it now, trying to kill himself in balloons and he's got his island where he entertains everybody and everything. I mean, fantastic. What a great thing to be in. But again, building a team. I wasn't so fortunate as being able to build the team.
Course,
it's just a strange industry built on lots of strong personalities and strange ones.
I can only imagine, stuff in films is what I'm picturing right now.
You should sort of see Snatch combined with I'm trying to think, Lock, Stock and I don't know. There's a few. There's a few.
Well, that's what I'm picturing. Anyway,
yeah. So you're not far wrong, to be honest, in some respects. So I took the plunge. I left. 6 years on, I've got into the business. I still do. Well, I do obviously do more now because I can. I do more now. Obviously, with events, jobs I'm involved with personally, and I make it more of a personal thing to see things through. And this is where sometimes things go wrong. Is that bigger organisations lose that chain of command and they lose that ability to put things right or to change things. And that's where I'm pretty much on it. That's why I'm a bit of an OCD. They think I was a bit of a maniac because I'm always on top of things. Going, have you done this? You've done that? Yeah. Oh yes, I've told. Oh no, have they done it though? Have you checked? So here we are, 6 years on. We're now. I mean, next year we should be looking at a turnover of 2 million. So
amazing.
Yeah, I think so.
No,
thank you.
No,
it is a journey.
Congratulations, and you put in the graft and all the years that you did, the sleepless nights,
sacrifices,
but all of that and sacrifices. But they got to be done sometimes to get to the position you're in now.
I don't think you can otherwise, unless you just. I mean, there isn't. I always think, people sometimes say there isn't an element of luck, right time, right place. I think because now you think, so I could have been bigger. I could have done that quicker. But it is what it is, and I can't, now...
And you've learned along the way and all of that kind of stuff.
Because I did everything. When I was over in Brentwood, I used to do the invoicing, I used to do the wages, I used to pay the VAT.
Of course, yeah.
I was, and then I gradually brought people in, and the problem, even pretty much early days is trying to get trying to get the people around you, because I've always constantly on guard because we've been let down of not getting the right people. They have always been, unfortunately, the sort of Achilles heel to it all, is getting the right people in place. But now, I took over another security business last October, Spotlight Security, and that transition's been successful. It's only my second. The first time was when I sold off a very tiny situation, and then I bought another one. So
So now I think everybody listening has a bit of an understanding of your history and where you've got to, how you've got to where you are now and where you are today, which is great. And hopefully you're going to go from strength to strength to now, and you've got bigger plans. And we'll come to those questions a bit in a bit. But one of the points of this podcast is to make community that you work in more aware of you and what you do and how maybe they might use you, and also what they can do to support you. So my first question is what do you do to aid your community? So, and that isn't a community not necessarily directly right around here, but the wider of Essex or whatever? And also, what can the people of Essex do to support VIP security?
Well, I've always been, whereas a lot of security companies as a whole, they tend to let the general public or the small people go by the wayside when they get to a fair size. So I still strongly believe, because that's where I started off, I will still do, we do security for people's weddings, we do people's functions, we look after people's homes, we patrol them, we hold the keys. And that's just not big wealthy mansions, that's just your standard person. Yeah. So we are very much amongst the community, and we do get some excellent feedback, and we do some excellent work with people. Just general Joe public who don't know where to go, they don't know who to approach. So, and often, I've given out, if I had £1, I suppose, for every bit of advice I've given out, I'd give it out freely, because at the end of the day, I tell you what, it does reap its rewards, because people do come back to you. They might, and I don't ever look at it as it's only £50, it's only £100. Whereas some companies would, they just think, it's not worth it. It's not worth the while. Of course. Because I do think it's, as you say, like the community, it's all about bringing it all together to be aware. Whether it's brand awareness or whatever you want to call it. Of course. It's very crucial to be amongst it. That people know about you. They also have VIP in Wickford.
Word of mouth. So once you've done that little bit, you don't know how it will scale up, and so who will tell who, and you know what, who looks after my home, or who I got for a wedding, or whatever that might be.
Yeah, lots of parties and things where people do. Mums of other ones. I was at one, and this lady comes, hello, Darren. And I thought, who the hell are you? And she said, you did my son's birthday party 2 years ago. And I'm like, was I there? Oh, right, okay. But, and I like that. I like the fact that people recognise and use you for the right reason. Nothing to do with cost, but just the fact that they liked you and they thought what you did was good. So I do a lot of that. We're involved with a lot of community events. So we provide security for, and I'm not saying we don't do it for nothing. We have done things for cost. We work with carnivals, local fetes, ceremonies and bits and pieces whereby we're involved. So the community does see us. So there's a lot of people, like Southend Carnival's a big one for us. We've got Wickford Carnival coming up. We do a lot of things like that. So they're actually community-based organisations, and we sponsor them. Or we sponsor Southend. We're one of the main sponsors of Southend Carnival. So which without it, they wouldn't be able to run. Of course, yeah. And that's an event that's attended by sort of 30,000 people. So I'm also a great believer in sort of local community things for boxing clubs. I'm a great boxing fan, and I've been involved in boxing for years. So I sponsor. The calendar and Sugar Ray's glove and bits and pieces. But I sponsor a couple of boxing clubs. I'm also in talks with sponsoring a couple of professionals that are coming along. I know 3 of them. I'm in a bit of a conundrum at the moment. So I've got 3 guys that I know, and they're all coming to me for sponsorship. And you can only do so much. Of course, definitely. It sounds but we do. I do like to get involved with
putting you on the spot. Have you got a tidbit of advice for an average Joe on security or staying safe or anything like that? Because you say obviously, anyone listening, have you got a one thing you would?
The first thing you need to do is look after yourself before you think about anything else. So it's just the little things, especially for home security. It's like locking your windows. The amount of time my wife drives me mad, leaving the window open. My house is alarmed and CCTV'd up and everything else. Security car parked out there most of the time, and yet just lock your windows, lock your door, use your bloody alarm. If you've got it, use it. If you've got signs and stickers, use them. Nobody, it's like you see in a car, you used to buy this car is alarmed or immobilised. Use it, because the way the thief or the person that intent. Now, okay, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it, right? But what it is, it's all about making things difficult for them. So if it takes them too much time, too much aggravation, they are going to look at it and think, there's one next door, I could do that, and they're going to, if you've got a dog. Great. I might lick someone to death, but that's by the by. If you've got that, they don't know that. Yeah. They don't know that, exactly. And you need to sign up. Beware of the dog. If you've got high fencing, there's things you can do that ain't going to cost the earth.
Of course.
And that's where you need to start. You need to start with your own fortress. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter what it is. It's a flat, a
Yeah.
10-bedroom mansion, whatever it is. You need to look after it. And I use the terminology an onion effect. Is that the layers of security you put in place.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah,
obviously for some very rich and famous people that we deal with, you know, that's an easier thing for them to do and they'd have more of it. But for general people, there is stuff you can do.
Great.
Yeah.
And so you obviously, like I said, got your helping potentially boxing clubs and actual professionals. You're helping with carnivals and things that are going on, and you're helping, you know, door-to-door people as well as the bigger companies.
Blue
and bigger
chips,
people.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
But what can the community do then to help you? You're a business that wants to grow. You're around the corner. You're based obviously in Wickford at the moment. You know you've been in Brentwood and all those areas. What can those communities do to say, hang on a minute, here's the VIP and they're great.
I think
People
you know.
should be using them.
Yeah, I think that obviously they could come to us for more advice. Often you see them talking and asking questions via local chit chat community groups. I tend to get little snippets of that, or
Okay.
you know, the people that you know, do my website and do my social media and things like that. Is that, and I see it myself on local chat groups. They sort of go, "Oh, does anyone know, you know, where to get a burger? And I've been burgled, or etc." But you know, the problem with security is that people don't. Like the question just asked, what can they do? That they should just, if they take on anything from this, take on that.
Okay.
Is that often people buy alarms, or they get a dog, or they have security. We're talking about a business on their industrial estate. It's either two things. It's either something's happened, the horse is bolted, so they go and get an alarm, or they go and do this, right? Statistically, it used to be that if you've been burgled once, you will get burgled again. However, the other side of it is a grudge buy. So someone sort of says to you, "Oh, I've been broken in," so you'll go, "Oh, all right, I'll go and get an alarm," or "Oh, we're going to have to pay out and have a guard on our premises." So if there was just a bit of forward thinking, then they come to us for advice. They can. I'm quite happy to give out emergency free stickers and boards and things like that they could use in the community. Because to be honest, because I was a safer neighbourhoods officer, so I was a community officer.
Mm-hmm.
So you used to go out there giving advice and saying how people could pull together. So it's all the things as if you're looking...
Working as a team.
Yeah,
as the estate,
yeah. As an estate, because we are dealing with a lot of estates in East London at the moment where the problems are huge. Well, the problem is when it's affecting you, it is a huge problem. But it might not be... It could be designed out. It could be lighting, what the area's like, who's about... You know, there's so many things that could come into play that don't have to be about paying for... Like, so me and you stood there walking around all night, just telling people not to do things, not to smoke cannabis, not to drink alcohol, not to do this, not to do that, around your area.
Cool.
So the community could pull together, look after themselves, look after their property, don't put up with the fact that people are running it down, and report things. Yeah. Now, I know the police has unfortunately... bad press and has shrunk. I don't believe, still, even though I have got, you know, a completely 100% commercial element here, however, I still don't believe in private policing. I don't believe that we should go to that. I think the police should be invested in, as with the fire service, as with the ambulance service and the NHS. That should be fully funded and invested upon and trained and get the great people that you see in other countries. The States is a pretty good example of how they look after their service people. Now, if we could fund that into that instead of wasting our time talking about and spending money on other rubbish, is that we could have a great police service that people could phone up and report. And maybe if there was a tier 2, someone like ourselves, I know G4S keep banging away, they want to take over everything, world domination, but
something like that.
Yeah.
Picking himself up after the Olympics anyway.
Yeah, in fact they were 3,000 staff short, but hey, you know, that's not a problem between friends, is it? Because, you know, one of the board of directors for G4S is married to Theresa May, who's, you know, the PM. So there you go. I'll let you all think about that one.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Exactly who you know. But, you know, it's not a problem, even though there's so many millions of pounds worth of government contracts out there. But that's another story. I'm not bitter. It's a case of sort of back to the community of being able to report being able to feel confident that somebody is going to listen or do something, because often now people are sort of saying, "Oh, I phoned the police, they never came out," or they did come out. I mean, it's shocking. It shouldn't happen from both sides of the fence. It really shouldn't. But they want to come on board. They think often that the costs are high. There are costs involved. There's always going to be, I'm afraid. Yeah. But I'm sure that if they saw the value of it and saw what gave them, because as soon as, one of my old sayings is, as soon as something's got value, it needs protecting. But it's different to everybody, isn't it? It's what you value: your car, your house, or people. So.
Okay, so moving on, and maybe a bit of a tricky question for the industry that you're in, but my company's called Simply Create, and it's all about how businesses are creative in their approach. So it doesn't necessarily mean about how do they use art, but how do they actually go around problem solving? What kind of different approaches do they take? Maybe how do they get creative in the service that they provide, or whatever that might be. So what would you say your business is kind of most creative in, or how does it best get creative with whatever problems it needs to solve?
It's a difficult one, that, because in a sense we are creative because we're always bombarded with people's problems, so we have to come up with a solution, and that's like our motto is working with you, is that the fact that often people come to us and they'll ask for something, or their email, the end product is nothing like what they originally asked for. Because of our experience and what we know and everything else, is that we are problem solving constantly. So to quantify that is quite difficult, because if, like I said about young in effect and looking after yourself, it's sometimes a combination of simplistic things that come together, and whether we put manpower into that, whether it's a security guard, whether we're in mobile patrol and we're going past and we're checking on premises, it's something we're doing all the time. Because if something happens, say a commercial building gets broken into, we will say, well, how did they get onto the site? We've got to be creative in thinking, how do we mould our service to what's happened? But a lot of the time, if people come to us, we've already got the answers to that. So we are constantly evolving. I mean, the IT side of security, which we do partnered through another company, like the alarms, the fire systems, laser beams, and you can go mad, and covert cameras. There's so much stuff. We can often find not the solution to the problem. We want to make sure the problem hasn't happened, but we'll get you. It's to prevent the problem happening in the first place, because prevention, believe it or not, is actually better than cure. And that's where sort of door supervisors, or we know them as bouncers, come into it. It's the fact that you hope that them being there is enough to prevention. Yeah, so, but often, as I said before, is that people they only get this in place when it's happened, and then moan about it and say how much.
And also, the problems that you're solving, it proves that you're providing your customers with the bespoke service. It's not a one-size-fits.
No.
So here's an alarm, here's a person, here's a patrol. Yeah. There you go, because that might not be what everybody necessarily needs. So makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And it's good when I like to ask that question with non-creative, or what are seen as non-creative businesses. Yeah. Because actually, I think it is in every business.
It is, but it's
how you look at it.
It is, yeah. Because on its face,
whatever,
face value, you wouldn't think, where are we? But we do on a daily basis.
Can you tell listeners something you are currently struggling with in your business? You don't have to go to the deep depths, but just in general, because again, a part of this podcast is bringing the real problem. Like running a business, there are problems, and you're always struggling with something. So it's good for other business to hear and see what might be a problem for them.
I think it's firefighting, really, and I think that must be in any business. And I think if it's a problem business and they're huge fires and they're always burning, but ours is more tiny situations that you're constantly firefighting, putting things out. But our biggest issue, I've never had a calendar year, whereby I've turned away so much work and business because of staff. We cannot get enough staff. In the industry wide, everyone thought it was a great idea to start up a company or an agency to provide security services. But there's not enough staff out there. The industry is struggling as a whole. The people are robbing Peter to pay Paul, because we just haven't got enough staff, and unfortunately, some of the staff come forward. We are having to rely on EU citizens, the African continent, Asia. They're big. They're all here, but that's where they originate from. But if it wasn't for them, we would be, because I'm only as good and we're only as big, and the expansion is only there built on the hours that we put out there.
Of course, yeah.
And it's not so much recruitment as in we're not out there with adverts and we're not out there. It's just people coming forward. We just struggle for staff.
People coming forward, numbers coming forward, or the people that are coming forward and the quality. So as in, you're getting people in the door, but actually they're not surviving or they're not doing
both.
What you need them to do. Okay.
The numbers is not great, and our analysis of it once was, and that you'd have 10 people, say you had, out of however many come forward, you'd have 10 people come forward. You might interview 8 of those. Out of those 8, you would take on 4, and from that 4, you'd probably only have 1 that would remain. That's, it's not good.
So
and it's been like that for years.
Trying to help you out, and potentially somebody listening to this, got a generic email address?
Yes. You would send it to info at vipsec.at. So that's info at vipsec.at. And you would just send in your CV.
Anybody then listening to this who is really serious about having a job and in the security sector, send you an email. Yeah.
Send me an email. There is an industry criteria that they must have an SIA license.
Yeah.
We can put people in. We can't necessarily pay for the licenses because they're individual licenses, but we can put you in the right direction and we can steer you through.
Support, help.
Yeah, it takes between, say, 6 weeks to sort of 12 weeks to get the whole thing. You have to go on a 4-day training course.
Yeah.
But anyone who's interested in that, even from a managerial, but it's best that they have a security industry background or experience. Even if it's admin, managerial, come and have a chat with us. Send your details in. I always say more the merrier, and then we can work it out from there.
Of course. Okay, so in terms of questions, we're nearly at kind of the future. But a few more. So, what do you think is the most unique thing about the business?
I think it's our personal attention to detail, because and the fact that we guarantee that we will cover things regardless of all the hurdles that are in our way. And we have always strived for that, to be that service, because service generally seems to be getting worse. But we will always guarantee things, as in if we're going to be there, we're going to be there, even though whatever pain it causes us to get somebody there in the real world of people let you down.
Of course, yeah.
And the fact that we will put a lot of attention to detail. So yeah, I'd say they're the main things.
Good. How do you advertise your business, and what has been the most effective way that you've seen?
Well, our biggest advert is the website, which really.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah,
So you're redoing it, right?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
It's really nice already,
Yeah,
but
you like it? Yeah.
okay.
Well, good. So another little plug: www.vipsec.at. That's a very straightforward website to have a look at.
Yeah.
And there'll be a new one coming at the end of 2018.
And
so
you get a lot. Get a lot of lead generation potentially.
a lot of lead from that, and then the other side of it is word of mouth, because we deal with. It is. We say if you like it, you talk to somebody else, or someone asks you, you're going to go to VIP.
And my sector where I come in is, I say, word of mouth is really powerful, and social media is word of mouth on a massive scale. Because if someone recommends you on social media and says you are great, then you've recommended it to 10 people or 50 people rather than just the one next door neighbour. So that's how I always see social media. People see social media a lot of time as an evil, or as it's how you use it. But for businesses, I think if you can get one advocate for your business telling everybody in their network how great you are as a business, they're potentially telling 100 people at a time rather than just their next door neighbour, which is one.
That's true. No. That's good actually, because social media has actually grown for us. Because I was very sceptical of it being a sort of an old.
From the older generation.
Yeah, the older generation. Yeah, not quite that bad, but just where social media came into it. But the trouble is, it can be your best friend, your worst enemy. because we've had, and this can be taken as a positive or negative, but it's about honesty, is the fact that, you know, we've had several members of staff that have gone off, that have been sacked, they've gone off, and they go on Google and they have a little rant, and you think, well, it doesn't look good, but I think to myself, well, you know, if hopefully somebody sensible enough looks through the fact that you've got 10 great testimonials or 10, because all those are real. We ask people, I mean, I'm sure, I hope everyone else is, but they're real.
Yeah,
you don't know. You know.
All
right, they're not.
They've all played cousins and nephews and aunties.
Bob was
and
a great guy.
Yeah, exactly. I've known him for years. Yeah, how many years? Since he's been born.
I know, yeah. You know, and what we do is after events and jobs, and trouble is we can't always keep on top of that. Is the fact that we have to, I say to my guys, is look, contact them, say how do we do? If it's bad feedback, then we'll have that. But
take it.
we'll have it and move on and get it sorted. But you know, the good feedback, and the trouble is you get staff that go and rant on. I feel sorry for those like hotels and bars that we deal with that have this nightmare with TripAdvisor, because TripAdvisor just crucifies people. Because I go on it as well. I don't go on it as much as my wife does, but I do go on it, and they're at the mercy of TripAdvisor.
I think one of our cultures as well, potentially in the UK across the board, is that when we have something bad we want to moan about or complain about, we'll go and shout about it, but actually we're not very good at giving praise to people. We're not as forthcoming with the positive.
Because we just sit with it, don't we?
Yeah. We'll go, that was really great, it was really good, but we'll keep it to ourselves. But as soon as there's something negative, we'll be like, guess what happened? And that's what we'll do. So
it's true, yeah.
But for businesses, is how you embrace that, I think. And with social media, I think it is a case of trying to embrace it, taking on the points that they're trying to make, and hopefully that there's people with common sense to understand that bitter people are always doesn't matter what happens, there's always going to be bitter people.
I think that's true, yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the future now, the last section. So can you tell people that are listening what you have planned, what you're excited about in the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, I am, we're taking on another office where we are here. The growth is there, we've taken on an extra vehicle. So we're moving forward. I'm really excited about the expansion now, because it's a case of now we're on a roll. We just need to keep rolling. I'm looking to merge and take over another security company within the next 6 to 12 months. I've already got 2 bubbling away, because I think that we can bring something to it. And I think that's how the larger ones have done it, is that they'll buy up people. They're not necessarily opposition.
Acquisitions.
So we'll be. Yeah. It will be through the acquisition of. We've already taken on one, so the plan is over the next, say, 12 to 18 months, at least another one, and then just keep playing forward. New website, new marketing material. We've got new banners coming out.
Yeah, great.
Maybe even talk to yourself about that.
That'd be good. Always good.
But, it's exciting times, and it's moving things forward, and it's. Because I often say, look, you know, if I earn more money, everyone else does as well. So, and that's what we want.
Yeah, of course. So, something that could be potentially quite interesting in a question, it's what is your favourite, most productive, most useful tool, app or piece of technology that you're using in your business right now? Now, why I say that could be quite interesting is I'm talking about a lot of businesses that might use a productive app or something, but you might actually have a security bit of technology that you are recommending because it's really great that no one's really heard of. So it could, but if it's not and it's just an app or a service or a bit of kit or something.
Yeah, interesting. We actually do. I was very sceptical about it, and it took me a good couple of years to take it on board. We use a staff management system called Parim, Parim. Okay. And it manages, because looking back now, we've had it. We've had it 3.5, 4 years. Mm-hmm. And looking back now, we used to have it in like diaries and we used to have on paper, Excel spreadsheets on the PC, where who was doing what, when, and what, and then everything. But now this tells people obviously who can have all their HR documents loaded on there, can have everything about them, their license. It flags up when it's due, training, what they've done, what they haven't done, all their contact details next to kin, where they work, when they worked, what time they actually got there. It's all GPS as well. They have to book in, they can do it on their phone app, or they can do it by a call and a pin.
Amazing.
And it gives all
life
their
a lot
hours.
easier.
Well, it has now.
Yeah, streamlined, made it productive. That's what I like. That's a great recommendation. So anyone, it's just a people management tool in general. It's not just for security.
No, it doesn't just have to be security. No, it's tailor-made.
So there you go.
So you load up the information. I mean, you manually load it, but the rest of it is, and it gives you notifications when they're late, when they haven't booked off. And it's also a lone worker. It can send them a message that you check on your app. Yeah, I'm alive.
Yeah, great.
But
great.
that can be I mean, it is anyway. I'm sure it is. But again, there's been this influx of people management systems over the last 5 years, and this was one that we picked up, strangely enough, from a guy that we inherited from another security company who said we're using this, and I said no, I don't want to pay that. I mean now because I think we're doing 2,000 hours a week, it's a couple of £100 a month.
Makes sense. Great, that's a great recommendation. We haven't had one like that yet, so that's really good.
Good.
Last question. No, two actually, but yeah, the last one's a bit
different.
Scenario question, and it comes back to recruitment actually, so quite an interesting one. If someone is just out of school, out of college, out of university, or maybe unemployed, and you are or were advertising for a job, what one thing do you think they could do to get an interest in your job or business? So what make them stand out? What will make them go far, do well?
Obviously, in my industry, it's a license, so that you have to be 18 to get your license. You go on a 4 or 5 day course, then you apply and you pay them and you get your license and you come. So that's obviously a standard. You can't do anything without it.
That's a baseline. But after that, they've got there, what can they do to impress you? You
have to be, because we do paint a very grey picture of the security industry, because as long as they're prepared, see, honesty is paramount. The trustworthy side of it, reliability is the other thing. If they can do the nights, the days, the weekends, and turn up and be there and prove that they can do it, they will go a long way. Hopefully they don't want to run their own company, not just yet until I retire, not yet though, for a good few years yet, I don't really know. But that's what they need to prove, because so many people come in and go, I'll do that, I'll do this, I'll do that. And then when you contact them, they say, "Oh, I don't want to work nights.
False promise.
I don't want to work weekends. I don't. Oh my God." And it's not that we don't paint a great picture. We do. So it's just getting somebody who actually puts their money where their mouth is and does it. It just proves the honesty and reliability, and they will go far.
Great. I think again, great. I think great for any 18-year-old who has their license, starting out, knows, hang on, if I can get my head down for a couple of years and really go for it and turn up and do those things, We
often do. We do get a lot of, we've done sort of job fairs, things at the, one of them was Southend College we did, and a lot of young people were coming up and saying, I want to be a bodyguard, I want to do this, I want to do that. Well, I'm a licensed bodyguard, however, you won't be able to do that at 18, 19 years of age. You just won't. But unfortunately, they'll still license you for that. So anyone listening, beware. Don't go and send their teenage son or daughter into that to look after, celebrities and things, because it just doesn't happen like that. It's a long road of connections, maturity, experience, and to do those types of things. And even then, most people, I say most, that's unfair. Some people, don't end up making a living out of it. Some do, but then that's it. It's a flip side, is that they're away a lot. They have last minute calls, those sort of things. So they can, as I say, they can come forward with no experience. But again, a lot of it is proving it. Driving is a good one. A lot of people don't drive now. They can't get to these locations that we have because they're not just in the high street. They're not just
a festival is in a field somewhere or whatever.
Exactly.
Of course,
so they should think about it logically. Can I get there? Can I get there at 6 in the morning, or can I get there at midnight, or can I get there on a bank holiday or a Saturday or a Sunday, and then can I get home? It's things we've often when people start and they say, "Can you get us home?" We go, "What?" So
of course. It makes sense. Think about it.
Just think about the realistic side of it, and the fact that sometimes you might be cold and miserable, you might have done long hours, but a lot of the time with security is that there's a lot of hours paid for doing not a lot. Realistically, it's not a lot, and sometimes a lot of the jobs aren't that brain taxing. Some of them are, but you're trained in it and you're given guidance on it, and you've got written instructions and briefings and bits and pieces. So, yeah, it's all there for them.
So the last question now, and it's actually one for me. I said, I've put you under the cosh the whole time with this interview, sprung some questions on you. Do you have a question for me? You don't have to, but yeah, it's your opportunity to ask one back.
Yeah. So, okay. So, what's your plan for the next 12, 18 months?
Oh, good. That is a great question. Simply Create's in its infancy. It's only been going a year, and it's kind of changed hats already a little bit, and been agile in its approach. The big thing that I want to go next year is video, so helping a lot of businesses to produce video, but also more about the story and the brand. So I want to really get inside, almost like a bit of a documentary kind of type videos for businesses, so people can really understand what they're like, because they're the kind of things also that are connecting with consumers, people that are buying, because they don't just invest in seeing the logo, or they invest in the people within that business. And build that trust. So a lot of it is about video, and then video tailored for social media. So different social media platforms have different guides in terms of quality of video, now landscape or horizontal or square, and adapting it to wherever the audience is for a business is actually key. You have to be quite native to where the platform is. So that's really the main thing for next year. And then my hope to continue to push on is actually to bring social media to businesses that's more innovative, so it uses less time. So at the minute, lots of businesses think that content and generating stuff for social media takes a long time, and there are actually lots of wins they can do that speed up the process, keep it real and on brand, and also have a much better kind of consumer engagement rate, if you like. Yeah. So that's my plan for the next year.
Good for you. Well, you've answered that quite well.
Hopefully. And that's it. That's all the interview over. So thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And one time I want to hear a few of these stories you might have from me.
Maybe we'll do it again.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a review, and any comments with any feedback would be much appreciated.